Welcome back, everybody. We are live. This is Cage My IQ. As always, I am your host, Cage. Joining with me, as always, is my co-host, Jim. How's it going, Jim?
It's going well. I'm doing pretty good. Ready to talk some very, very good fights this week.
Yep. Of course, today we are doing our UFC 276 four-card breakdown for you guys. This is going to be taking place July 2nd from the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. Jim, what was your thoughts on this fight when it was first announced?
Well, first, I can't believe that we're almost into July. I feel like half the year's gone by and I don't even remember it. But I absolutely love this card. This has the potential to be card of the year, although the Cater and Emmett fight card was absolutely amazing. It's going to set a high bar, and there's so much potential there. But there's also so much potential in this one. Obviously, two title fights, a trilogy fight at featherweight, and is Iain Jarod Cannonier. Cannonier finally making it to the promised land. So we'll see where they go. But this is a very, very great card.
Yeah, definitely so. But before you get going any farther in this video, as always, we are Cage by IQ. If you haven't done so already, please follow and subscribe to us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube. We are back on the Cage My IQ YouTube channel, so please go look down below, smash the subscribe button, and then hit the notification bell so you guys are the first to get our content when we put it out. And then please do us a favor, help the podcast out, smash the like button down below, and hit us up in the comment section to the right. Let us know what you think of the fights on this card. Who do you got winning? Who are your surprise picks? And then I'm like always, I'll be posting my betting picks that I give you guys at the end of the episode in the comment section. Give me a like on there and give me your opinion on my betting picks. Last week I went 2 for 2 on there. I got two right, of course. Not Story Yanko. Jasmine Judavicious didn't help my parlay out with Jeremiah Wells, but then of course I got the other two right. That was 2 weeks ago, and then last week we're still waiting for the fight card to happen. It's going to be take place in a couple of days. I got my three solo bets and then my two fighter parlay. So hopefully we hit on that, just like we've hit on a couple of the bets the past couple of weeks. So definitely follow us on social media, and then of course check out our sponsor if you haven't done so already as well. Our sponsor is High Tide Herbal. If you don't know who High Tide Herbal is, check out this video right now.
Offering high-quality, sustainable products with all-natural, lab-tested ingredients, it's High Tide Herbal's mission to help others live the longest, healthiest, and most productive lives possible. Their hemp-derived CBD products have a wide variety of uses, from helping sore muscles to skin hydration and minimizing skin irritation. They generate results based on your specific needs. Elevate your lifestyle with the new wave of wellness. Visit hightideherbal.com to learn more.
Once again, that's our sponsor, High Tide Herbal. The promo that we're running with them right now is just put in promo code CageMyIQ10 at checkout to receive 10% off your next purchase. We got this fight card for you to break down right now. It is a 13 fight bout. It was going to be 14. We had a couple cancellations on the card, but all in all, I am looking forward to this one. But let's get started with the action here. The first fight on the card is a women's bantamweight matchup between Jessica Rose Clark versus Drugea Stoliarenko. First, this is going to be taking place in the bantamweight division. We got Jess, and then we got Stoliarenko. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, I have Jessica Rose Clark winning this fight. She has the better striking and has good grappling, really good BJJ, but not better BJJ than Stoliarenko, in my opinion. But with this matchup, she just needs to keep the fight standing. We know that Stoliarenko only hunts arm bars, which is how Jessica Rose Clark lost her last fight. So that's something to look out for. But Clark should keep the fight standing and force Stoliarenko to stand with her. And when we saw when Storyenko has to stand and she can't get the submissions, she tends to struggle. And Jessie Rose Clark doesn't need to take the bait. Storyenko drops the guard, and she just hopes that people engage her. Don't take that. Don't drop the guard with her. I believe she keeps it standing, and I have Jessica Rose Clark winning by decision.
Yeah, Jessica Rose Clark has been a story of good and bad fight IQ in every fight. Of course, she had a fight against Jocelyn Edwards where she had great fight IQ. She took her down several times. She controlled the majority of the fight on the mat. She did a very good ground and pound, and then she mixed up her striking when they were standing. But then she came in last fight and had poor fight IQ, and just like you said, and got submitted by Stephanie Yeager in that last fight. So it all depends on her if she comes in there and just sticks to striking because she doesn't want to roll on the mat with Storyenko, since just like you said, of how she lost last fight and then what Storyenko does with her very good BJJ, where she focuses on getting the fight to the mat and then submitting you. And her striking is more singular. She has low volume, and she basically uses it to get entry rate into grappling and then getting the fight down to the mat. I'm also going with Jessica Rose Clark. I'm going with her by decision here. I think she could get the striking going. She doesn't pour a lot of striking in. She likes to do one, twos, maybe like a 3 strike combo at best. But the majority just to rack up the volume and to move around and to beat her opponent. And she's going to be scared to clinch up with Storyenko, so she's going to do a lot of hit and move. And that's why I'm going with her by decision.
Yeah, as long as this fight doesn't go to the ground in favor of Storyenko, I think Rose Clark gets out unscathed. In the later rounds, I believe it was against Alexis Davis, Storyenko looked to have a little more power in her shots, but she was getting tagged so much that that's why it was a unanimous decision. I see it being the same with this one as well.
Yeah, me too. But let's move on to the second fight on the card. We got a men's middleweight matchup between veteran Brad Tavares going up against Dricus du Plessis. We got Tavares, and then we got Stojakovic. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this was a very interesting fight. Another near even in favor of the odds, just like the last one. But I have Dricus du Plessis winning this fight. Tavares has had a 1-year layoff, which could play into my decision here. But the main reason why I'm going with Dricus is because of his style. He's an accurate and powerful striker who works really fast. The thing to look at here is who wins the striking exchanges. Dricus's kickboxing and reach advantage coupled with his sneaky grappling leads me to go with him by decision. But Tavares can go to war. We've seen him go to war with Adesanya, and he looked really good in that fight too. But I have du Plessis getting a big win by decision.
And it always seems like Brad Tavares has good fights with his opponents. The last one, he went to decision against Omari Akhmadov, who is killing it right now in the PFL 2-0 with 2 finishes, one by knockout, one by submission. And that fight went down to the last round, and Brad Tavares was able to inch it out by just a little bit over Omari because of his gas tank. But like, he'll just come at you. He throws well. He can grapple up a little bit. But he's more like the old style to me than this new style MMA that we're seeing with guys who are just more powerful, better movement, better cardio. And we got Dricus, who comes in. He has really good kickboxing. That's what he's known for. And then, like you said, he has sneaky grappling. He can grapple up with you. A lot of his fights are won by finish, but he has like 2 or 3 fights that he's won by submission. So he's not just knocking people out. He's going in there, grappling, and submitted them. So he can get you from both sides of things. And when I look at this, that's why it's crazy, because the odds are right now Brad Tavares is the favorite at minus 130, and then Dricus is a plus 110. So it's like Do they see something that I'm not seeing? Are they going with just the fact that Brad Tavares has fought a lot in the UFC, so they're going with the guy with more experience? For me, I'm going with Dricus Duplessis by round 2 knockout here. I feel like he's going to touch him up with the kickboxing. I know it's not like pouring a lot of volume because he's only fought twice, but he's had a knockout in round 1, and then he's had a knockout in round 2. So he doesn't really get the chance to rack up the volume, but he rolls around. He usually uses his leg kicks. He mixes up those with his jab and the cross, and then he likes to jump in and clinch when he needs to. And I feel like he's going to go in there and just do damage to Tavares. And I think he's going to clinch him up, hit him with the elbow, and then finish him off with the overhand shot. I just feel like he's the guy coming in here with the momentum, where, just like you said, Tavares is coming in not having fought in over a year. And so I'm going with Dricus by round 2 knockout.
Yeah, I thought that the odds were going to be completely different, to be honest. Maybe you're right. Maybe they're taking the vet over the small sample size in Dricus. But Tavares has a really good chin. He's only been knocked out 3 times. Dricus in his 2 UFC fights have only landed in the mid-20s, but they both ended in knockouts, early knockouts. So I'm curious to see where this one goes. I'm looking forward to that fight a lot.
Me too. And one thing I like that Duplessis does, he like beats you into a shot. Like he'll hit you, he'll move backwards, or he jumps backwards, and when you start moving forward, he comes back at you. He expects you to move forward to chase him, and then he throws those high leg kicks at you, and he's been able to connect on it quite a few times. So he likes to set traps for his opponents a lot in the octagon.
Yeah, I've seen that, and his opponents have been taking those traps, and it's resulting in a knockout.
Yep. But let's move on to the next fight on the card. We got a men's lightweight matchup between the Endless Wonder, Jim Miller, going up against Bobby Green. We got 8-10 versus the King. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight, and then who do you have winning?
Yeah, I'm going with Bobby Green in this fight. It seems like a step back for Bobby Green in terms of opponent, but Jim Miller has been knocking dudes out. He's on 2-fight win streak, and before Bobby Green was taking the Islam Makhachev fight on short notice, he was fighting kind of the lower ranking, not unranked opponents. So it's not
20,
really
ranked 15 to 20. Yeah,
exactly. And so this isn't really a step back. This is right where he was. He just took an opportunity when it knocked. I don't see Jim Miller knocking Bobby Green out in this fight. Bobby Green lands at a high rate and isn't afraid to mix it up on the ground, although I would give the advantage on the ground to Jim Miller. I see Bobby working his jab to set up a second round knockout of Jim Miller. So Bobby Green, second round KO.
Yeah, we've seen kind of a renaissance the past few fights with Jim Miller. They've been feeding him a lot of newcomers or guys that are trying to make the move up, and he's been able to finish them. And we all know that Jim Miller hasn't had the best cardio in the past couple of years. He's been a guy where you want to go with him in the first round, and then afterwards you fade him and go with the other opponent when they're fighting. But he's been able to knock guys out. Like in the past 2 fights, I think he has 2.
Yep.
And before that, he hadn't had one in over 5, 6, 7 years. So he's been able to really improve his striking at a late age in the game compared to some of the other guys. Like he comes in there majority of the time, if you taken away from the striking, he's a high level submission artist where he tries to grapple you, tries to take you down with the wrestling, and then he looks to submit you with the wide range of submissions that he uses. Rear naked choke, guillotine, you name it, he does it. But he's been being able to mix that up with the striking lately. The only Achilles heel has been his chin. Like he did get rocked against Eric Gonzalez, but then he came back recovered quickly, and then he finished Gonzalez in the beginning of the second round. And then in the last fight, to me, he looked really good. But then you got against Moda, who's a power puncher in himself / wrestler, and he was able to just get him out of there quickly. Then you got Bobby Green, who's tough as nails, who has a great chin. He's going to move forward no matter what. That's his game plan. He moves forward. Even if you hit him, he's coming forward. He's striking with you. He does high volume. He's one of the biggest trash talkers in the cage. But he's had a weakness against grapplers where he tends to get taken down or he tends to get out-volumed in fights. And he's going to go in there and try and finish Jim Miller or have Jim Miller tire out, and then he's going to go for the finish. I had Bobby Green winning this by second round knockout. I think Jim Miller will be live for this one in round 1 to win by submission if he can take him down and submit him. But once it starts the second round, that's when I think Bobby Green takes over. And I think Jim Miller will start to get a little bit tired. Bobby Green will hit him, stun him, and then he'll finish him. And he'll win by KO. And then we'll see what Jim Miller has to say afterwards because he's trying to make it to UFC 300. So we'll see how much he has left after this fight.
Yeah, I mean, this is a striker versus grappler that we always talk about, but Jim Miller is now a striker too. He should change his nickname from A10 to Renaissance Man because he really did have a turn in his career. I'm looking forward to that fight a lot.
Me too. But let's move on to the next fight on the card. We got a men's top 15 middleweight matchup between Uriah Hall going up against Andre Munhoz. We got Primetime versus Sergio Jim this fight, and then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this is another interesting fight, interesting matchup. I have Andre Munoz winning this fight. This is again the striker versus the grappler that we always talk about. Hall has a ton of power and can put on a ton of volume, but we don't know what Uriah Hall comes into every fight. I feel like we talk about it every single fight. And Munoz is really good on the ground and is quick to lock in subs. When Hall loses the ground battle as of late and is taken down multiple times, he loses. I see him being taken down multiple times, and I have Andre Munoz winning this by second round submission.
Lately, I've been calling Uriah Hall basically the middleweight version of Zardinho Rosenstruck, where he has a lot of power in his striking, but he's very passive. He sits in that karate like stance. Yep. He allows his opponent to dictate the fight majority, and then he just likes to counter them. And he's been able to get those crazy knockouts just by countering opponents at times. But when opponents don't allow him to counter, they dictate the fight. They are very aggressive against him, and then they just rack up the volume and either avoid the counter shots or they just finish him early. They don't have to deal with the shots from Uriah Hall, and then it looks like the shove himself, but then he'll always come back and have that performance where he's losing, and then he pulls out a knockout out of his ass due to a counter that just was perfectly placed. But he's going up against a guy in Andre Munoz, like you said, who's a great grappler, a submission artist. He likes to get to the mat and then submit you and get you into his roundhouse, but he's no slouch to the stand-up game. He's been able to knock out some guys that he's fought in the past, even on the regional scene. He's beaten guys who are in the UFC now at light heavyweight that only had like 1 or 2 losses to their name, and he was one of them where he won by knockout because of his experience on the scene, the regional scene, especially in Russia. He's a known guy over there for both the grappling and the striking. And I think he's going to come in there, and I think he's going to win by unanimous decision here. I don't think he submits Uriah Hall, but I see him just doing enough to piece up Uriah Hall, move around. I think he takes him down several times, controls him on the mat, looks for submissions. Uriah Hall's tough, so I don't think he will tap or anything, but because Uriah Hall's so passive, I think he outvolumes him in a mid-volume type fight and then grapples with him and wins by unanimous decision pretty easily.
The one thing that made me lean towards submission is the fact that Munoz was able to submit Drakkar, who is an expert in himself on the ground. And he was able to take him down. Drakkar's got really good takedown defense, and he was able to submit him. So, I know striking-wise, Drakkar and Uriah are worlds apart. But takedown defense, they're also worlds apart, where Drakkar is, stronger. So I feel like he's going to be taken down and put himself in a bad position. I think he's not going to tap. I think he's just going to go to sleep.
Yeah, I could see that, and then of course that's how he beat Eric Anders too. He beat him by armbar submission, so he's been able to do that several times in the UFC. I just think that it's going to be a decision victory here because Uriah Hall is really good with his movement, but he just is so passive in fights where I think it's always kind of knockout or bust for him nowadays.
Yeah, for sure. And it usually ends in a decision.
Yep. But let's move on to the next fight on the card. We got a men's welterweight matchup between Iain Gary versus Gabe Green. We got the Future versus the Gifted. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this one was a really tough one. Green is probably going to be the toughest test so far for Iain Gary in his UFC career and has a ton of power. Gary is accurate and Green is hittable. Those are the two things that I looked at in their previous fights. Green is also good with takedowns, which Gary hasn't seen much of lately, which could be a weakness for him as well. I believe Gary will match Green's intensity, and when he's been a little passive in his last two fights, I think he's going to be a little more intense in this one, a little more aggressive, and get second round KO. I think he knocks Gabe Green out. So Iain Gary, knockout.
Yeah, he's had a lot of hype coming into the UFC. He's 2-0, but he hasn't looked great in those two fights.
Right.
So I'm looking to see him put it all together in this one. He has of course, the striking background, and he has good movement, his knockout power. Whereas you got Gabe Green, who has a nice mixture of striking and grappling, who came in last fight and beat a big-time prospect in Johan Lenezi, where he was getting stunned in that fight against Johan, but then he came back when Johan started to get tired out, and then he got the finish over him because of his cardio. He has good cardio, a good grapple. He has a lot of good everything, but he's not great at one thing. Whereas I feel like Iain Gary is great at striking. He's great at movement. And so I think Iain Gary comes in here, outstrikes him, and knocks him out in round one.
Yeah, I mean, Green is a game fighter. He's really good. He went to war with Daniel Rodriguez. I think over 120 strikes landed. But I feel like Iain Gary is slightly more accurate than Daniel Rodriguez is going to be able to put Gabe Green together. Both of these guys, honestly, have really bright futures in the UFC once they put it all together. I'm looking forward to their futures.
The one thing to watch out for, though, is if Gabe Green looks to take down Iain Gary. If he can take him down, then I do think that Gabe Green can win this fight because Iain Gary has showed that his takedown defense is only subpar. So that would be a path to victory for Gabe Green. It's just a matter if he can take him down or not, or if he chooses to try and take him down and he tries to stand up and trade with him.
No, I totally agree with you. This card is full of pick'ems. Yeah. When I was going over, watching film and stuff, there's a lot of pick'em fights for me. It was, one thing made me, was the deciding factor for a lot of these fights, and it was a very small thing for most of them.
Yeah. But let's move on to the next fight on the card. We got a women's flyweight matchup between Jessica I going up against Macy Barber. We got evil Jessica I, and then we got Macy, the future Barber. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Well, my first thought is that this isn't going to happen because every fight that Jessica I has had planned for in the last year and a half has been canceled. But I'm going to go with Macy Barber on this one. Um, Jessica I is on the back end of her career and has been training for 4 different opponents, like I said, in the last few years. She's entered that gatekeeper role, and of the 4 fights that were either canceled or that were scheduled or canceled, this is the only one that I could see her winning. She was going to fight Casey O'Neill. She was going to, God, who else was she was going to fight? Can't remember. She had a bunch of matchups where I didn't see her favored. Andrea Lee and Manon Fiorot.
Yeah.
This is the only one that I can see her winning. But I think Barber has done enough in her previous fights to win the judges' favor, even though we disagree at least with one of those wins. So I see Macy Barber winning by decision.
Yeah, and we know how Macy Barber fights, which makes this even better. Macy Barber usually likes to stay in the kickboxing range and trades with her opponent. She always starts slow and then picks up her pace in rounds 2 and 3. She's really good at pushing her opponent against the cage and then just manhandling them there and throwing the knees and the elbows. And I feel like we saw the best version of her last fight, where she basically, to me, dominated that fight right there against Montana De La Rosa, in a fight where a lot of people thought that De La Rosa was going to dominate, and it wound up being the opposite. It wound up being Macy Barber holding her against the cage, throwing those strikes at her, and then just dictating the fight into her rear house rather than letting Montana De La Rosa take her down. And then you got Jessica I, who has not had the best luck in the last 4 or 5 fights, losing all her fights by decision. She does have a good chin. She has good hand speed. She has good striking, decent grappling, and then really good takedown defense. And with her, she's missed a lot of time. And then now she has just had, I believe, eye surgery to fix her vision. So maybe she does good with the eye vision now that she can see better. Who knows? But she does have good striking, and she likes to push forward. So I think that creates a problem for Macy Barber. I actually think it's going to be Macy Barber by split decision. I think it's going to be that because I think Jessica I is going to challenge her with the striking. It's just a matter of, I feel like Macy Barber could probably grapple up against the cage and slow her down a little bit, throw those knees and elbows in the clinch, and then keep it subpar with the volume, because I think Jessica I might pull more volume, but then by a little bit, but then Macy Barber will mix in some of that control time along the cage to kind of show the judges that she's staying with there, and she might add the bigger blows on Jessica I as well. But then with how the judges are, I could see it being a split decision victory for Macy.
Yeah, I mean, this has split written all over it. Jessica I hasn't won a fight. She has 1 win in 3 years.
Yeah.
And that's to Viviane Araújo. But she's lost all of her grappling matches. She's lost, some big fights against Joanne Wood, Jennifer Maia, and we all remember what happened when she went up against Valentina. Maybe the vision was a big thing, and maybe that corrects it, and we'll see.
Yep, because she was a big time prospect coming
For sure.
up the regional scene and everything, and then she just came up here and she looked like she missed a step, and maybe it was that. Maybe she just can't compete with some of these fighters, but we'll see come Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, she's always been a beast. She's not going to go in and give Macy Barber a victory. Macy's going to absolutely have to earn it, and can't earn it shadow boxing.
Yeah, exactly. But let's move on to the next fight on the card. This is a very interesting matchup in the welterweight division between Robbie Ruthless Lawler going up against Brian Bam Bam Barberina. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight, and who do you have winning?
I love this fight. I think it's going to be an absolute war. Both fighters went 100+ strikes in their last fights and aren't going to take this fight to the ground. This is not going to be a grappling exchange. I have Barberena in this one purely off of his output in his last 2 fights. He's gone 100 plus in his last 2 fights, while Lawler went 100 plus last time against Nick Diaz, who hadn't fought in like 75 years. And in his fight before that, he only went 26, and that was a decision. I see Barberena being more active and getting the decision win over Robbie Lawler.
Yeah, this is going to be a crazy fight where, just like in that one, these guys are going to throw the kitchen sink at each other. They're going to stand up, they're going to throw, and it's going to be like that for a lot of blood, a lot of big time shots to the face. I'm going to go Brian Barberena by decision here. This has knockout written all over it, but I just have a feeling that it's going to be a knockout style fight for the first round where they hit big blows on each other. Maybe they each knock each other down once, but then after round one, I feel like it's going to be a slower paced fight because they're both going to be tired from all the throws, and they're just going to start doing like a little bit of piece up here and there, and they're going to lose a little bit of that sting on the end of their punches.
Yeah,
and I'm going to lean towards the younger fighter with the more stamina, and Brian Barberena. I feel like he's the one moving up. He's got a couple good wins under his belt lately, and he's going up against Robbie Lawler, who he did beat Nick Diaz, but he didn't look like the Robbie Lawler we saw from years ago. I feel like he's lost a step. He can still knock a guy out, but I just feel like Brian Barberena can be one step ahead of him. So that's why I'm going with Barberena by decision.
Yeah, there's two things to look at. Robbie Lawler's dropping down in weight. He's going down to welterweight. And he hasn't been knocked out in 6 years. And that's when Tyron Woodley was still knocking people out. So even though he's taking a step back per se, and he's getting older, his chin's still there. So if anybody's going to test that chin, it's going to be Brian Barberena. They don't call him Bam Bam for nothing.
Yep. Look, but let's move on to the main event of the prelims. We got a men's lightweight matchup between Brad Riddell going up against Jaden Turner. We got Quake versus the Tarantula. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
Yeah, this is another really tough one. Turner has the reach advantage, but Riddell has more tools, in my opinion. I have Brad Riddell winning this fight. I feel like Turner's only path to victory is to use his reach advantage to score a knockout, and Riddell is really good at ducking knockouts and incorporating leg kicks to negate reach advantages or any other type of holes in his game. So I'm going to go with Brad Riddell by decision, but I think this is going to be a lot closer than a lot of people are thinking. This Jalen Turner's on the rise. Riddell's still look good. He's top 15, but I believe Riddell gets this one done.
Brad Riddell's the kind of guy that just does enough to win his fights. He's a tough news guy. He lasts in fights, except for the last one where he got knocked out by physio, by leg kick. I got Jaden Turner by a first round knockout here. He's just going to come in here. He's the taller fighter. He has the bigger reach by 5 or 6 inches, which I think plays a big part into this. Yeah. He has that kickboxing style background and Muay Thai. He likes to go in there, throw those leg kicks. But then the big part of his game is his boxing. He has quick hands, quick movement, and then he's added the grappling on top of it. Training with the Gracies now. You've seen it the past 2-3 fights with how he has 2 submission victories to his belt. He's kind of made it his thing to win by submission. Except for last fight, he got the victory without it. He did it with the striking in that one, but I feel like he's going to use his range. He's going to use his leg kicks. He's going to go in and out with his boxing. I think his hand speed is going to be the big difference in this fight. Brad Riddell is a tough guy. He's a top 15 fighter, and then he can go all 3 rounds, and he has good cardio, but he takes a lot of damage in fights, and against a guy with the bigger reach like that, it's going to be a tough outing for him. I just think he's going to get caught with a big time shot and get knocked down.
Yeah, it's absolutely a possibility. That's what I said. Jalen Turner's path to victory is a knockout. Both have that kickboxing Muay Thai background, but when you do, like, in Jalen Turner's favor, when you do factor in Gracie grappling and Jason Perillo boxing, that's a dangerous combination. And
Yeah.
once they really start clicking on all four cylinders, he's going to be a dangerous, even more dangerous fighter. But I knew that, and when I was doing a note, I knew that this was going to be the first one that we disagreed on.
Yeah.
But I can't argue it because this is a very near even matchup.
It is, and it's crazy to look that Brad Riddell is the plus 100 underdog, and then
Yep.
Turner's minus 120. So it is shown in there that it's basically near even there, that
Yeah.
they don't really know who's going to win. And this is the fight to see if Jalen Turner can break into that top 15, if he's worthy to get in there and start having those big matchups with the big guys in the top 10 of the lightweight division.
Yeah.
I think he could get it done. But I'd be interested to see if he tries to grapple with Brad Riddell, if he tries to take him down, because you got that long frame and height of his. He could kind of control Riddell on the mat by just holding on to him and then punching him from the back and look for those submissions he's been like learning the last couple of years. I'd be interested to see if he does that.
Yeah, just drag the fight out on the mat.
Yeah, because he could do it with the striking, but then he could do it with that, and then use a little bit less, and then if he gets out, then to just go back to his striking.
Right.
But let's move on to the main card here for 276. First, we got a men's bantamweight matchup between Pedro Munoz versus Sean O'Malley. We got the Young Punisher versus Sugar. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
This is a great matchup, and it's a real test for Sean O'Malley. I have Sean O'Malley winning this one, but this could be a setup for a Pedro Munoz upset. Sean has the reach advantage and the height advantage, plus his striking is cleaner, in my opinion. Munoz has a really good chin. He looked good against Jose Aldo, and that chin was tested against Aldo, and would be best suited, in my opinion, to take the Chito Vera route and attack Sean O'Malley's legs, chop him down. I don't see O'Malley knocking out Munoz because of his chin, but I do see him winning by decision. He needs to start checking leg kicks, or it's going to be a long night for him, because Munoz can throw some powerful leg kicks, and if O'Malley doesn't check them, it's going to be a long night. And I know O'Malley's more motivated right now. He re-signed with the UFC. He's trying to get to that $1 million purse per fight. This is going to be a tough test, and this is the first not first real test, but this is the first step towards getting that 1 mil per fight. So I'm going with him by decision.
Yeah, this is that step where he's gotten back to that Chito Vera spot where he fought Chito Vera, and then he lost because he threw the leg kick. It got checked, and then he hurt his leg, and that's when Chito Vera beat him. And he's always been talking about, like, I should have won that. And then
still undefeated.
Yeah, and he's still undefeated, even though he lost that fight. And then he's going up against a guy in Pedro Munoz who has the best leg kicks in the division, almost even better than Jose Aldo. Like, he throws a lot of leg kicks at a good rate in UFC. In his last couple of fights, he's thrown 20 to 30 leg strikes in his fights, even though he's lost, as you see right there, 2 losses. He's had 2 big losses to Dominic Cruz and Jose Aldo, so it's not like he lost to scrubs. He looked good in those fights. It's just that they were able to out-volume him and deal with the leg kicks better. But he has very good leg kicks. He has very good striking. He has good grappling. Sean O'Malley has great striking. He likes to fight from a distance, that kickboxing range. He loves the leg kicks. He always throws the kick to the side and then the kick to the head. But he, like you said, he needs to start checking the leg kicks or he's going to keep on getting hurt because he has too many like small legs where there's not a lot of strength to him because he does a lot of his work with his stomach and his hands, that he doesn't do too much to his legs, and it allows for him to get hurt easier, or break a leg because he throws them a lot, and then guys who check him, it's they know what to do. But I see him going just a little bit of leg kicks. I see a lot of forward movement from Sean O'Malley, a lot of the hand striking coming at you. He likes to throw it at a high clip of rate, volume. You've seen in the last couple fights where he was able to just pour on the volume, and he did finish Paiva pretty quickly with the patience. And then before that, he beat Chris Matino, where he had almost over 200 strikes in that fight.
Yeah.
Because he just did a lot of damage there. I see it somewhere in between that where he does quite a bit of volume, but then it's not to that level because Pedro Munoz is a top 10 fighter, even with the losses. He knows how to fight. And that's why I'm going with the decision victory here. I think Pedro Munoz, not only is he one of the best leg kickers in the division, but he's the toughest as well. It's very hard to knock him out. You can stun him. Dominic Cruz stunned him, but it's very hard to knock him out. So that's why I'm going O'Malley by decision.
Yeah, Pedro Munoz, in terms of odds, his last 3 fights has been near even entering. He's been like a -100 against Cruz, Aldo, and Jimmy Rivera, whereas O'Malley has been the favorite for all of his fights. So it's interesting to see that Pedro Munoz is one of those fighters that, isn't really the betting underdog in a lot of his fights as of late, but he is in this one. Sean O'Malley's movement kind of resembles a little bit of Dominic Cruz, so I see the similarities there, where that kind of gave Munoz some issues in his last fight. But yeah, we're both riding with Sean O'Malley on this one.
Yep. Let's move on to the next fight on the main card. We have a women's flyweight matchup between Lauren Murphy and then Misha Tate. Misha Tate is making the move down from, of course, bantamweight to flyweight. We got Cupcake versus Lucky. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
I have Misha Tate winning this fight. Murphy is an accurate striker, but I can see Tate landing enough takedowns and at several points in this fight, and doing enough to pull out the win. Murphy is very capable of winning this fight, but I think Misha Tate, like you said, dropping down in weight is actually going to work to her advantage and give her more power post weigh-ins, and it's going to help her, keep the pressure on Murphy on the ground and hold her down. So I have Tate winning by decision.
Yeah, this is going to be very a fun fight because Lauren Murphy likes to wrestle and take you down to the mat and ground and pound you. She was one of the first to showcase that against Valentina Shevchenko before she got finished in that fight. But Misha Tate has really good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu submission artist. She's been showcasing her striking as well. She came back from 4-year layoff and had that 5-round decision loss to Ketlin Vieira back in I believe it was October and November, where she barely lost the fight due to volume. So she has showcased that she can still go 5 rounds and she can strike with you. It's just that she could easily defend the takedowns of Ketlin Vieira. That was what I was very impressed with, that she had that long layoff and she defended the takedowns against Vieira. And Vieira even only shot once or twice. You knew that Vieira respected the takedown defense of Misha Tate, so she stuck to just trading shots with her, and she still pulled out the victory. But Misha Tate showed a lot in that fight, and maybe that's why she made the move down the flyweight, was because she felt like she was a step too slow, or I should say not as big like weight wise, and she needed to cut the weight down to face some of these smaller opponents where she could probably grapple up with them and outvolume them. And that's why I'm going with the same here. I'm going with the Misha Tate by decision. I feel like she can defend the takedowns of Lauren Murphy. She will out strike her, and maybe she could grapple and throw down Lauren Murphy. I feel like Misha Tate could sub Lauren Murphy, but I feel like she might stick to stand up and trading with her. So that's why I'm going with Misha Tate by decision.
Yeah, the Misha Tate journey back to the UFC has been really confusing. She went up against her tune-up fight was against Marion Renault, who was retiring after that fight, and then they were like, "Okay, let's give you a top 5 contender." And it was seemingly they were putting her. If she beat Ketlin Vieira, she was going to go up against Amanda. It didn't work out. That fight's not there, so maybe that doesn't intrigue her anymore because Amanda's not champ. So she's dropping down. She's going to go up against smaller fighters, like you said, and really just like get some more wins under her belt so she can kind of call her own shots.
I think it just presents a new matchups for her, and I think that's what intrigued her with the move down. Because she can cut the weight more. She said the weight cut doesn't really bother her because it's not that much to her. And it's different opponents that she hasn't fought before. She's fought a lot of the opponents that were in that bantamweight division already. And now she can fight a whole slew of people at a smaller weight class that maybe she can have the advantage on with grappling because she's going to be primarily a bigger opponent.
I mean, honestly, she could win this fight and Dana give her a title shot against Shevchenko because it's a new opponent. So that might be, she's got to go through a slew of other people in to get to Pena or to get to Nunez after their rematch. So this is a smart move on Tate's part.
Yeah. But let's move on to the next fight on the main card. We got a men's middleweight matchup between Sean Strickland going up against Alex Ferreira. We got Tarzan versus Putan. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight? And then who do you have winning?
I kind of wish this fight wasn't on this card, if I'm being honest. I wish that this was a fight night main event because I love this matchup absolutely. The UFC is seemingly where we're just talking about Misha Tate and Amanda having that rematch. That's where they were trying to put it. They seemingly want an Izzy versus Pereira rematch from their past in their kickboxing days, because Pereira is, if I'm not mistaken, the last person to knock Adesanya out, and I believe that was on the regionals in what K1, right?
Yes.
But Strickland isn't a layup by any means. I think Strickland is a really tough out for anybody, especially Pereira, who tends to gas out a little later in fights, where Strickland tends to thrive later in fights. And I have Strickland winning this fight. Strickland is able to stand and bang with the best of them and get the fight to the cage and do enough damage to get the decision win. I wouldn't be shocked to see if he takes his fight to the ground, knowing that Pereira is capable of burning out. So I'm going to go with Sean Strickland by decision. I think this is a big win for him.
Yeah, and lately Sean Strickland has been training with his takedowns, his wrestling. He's been down there in Florida working on that because he knows that that's something that might be Ferreira's weakness. Because Sean Strickland, he's the type of guy where his defense is a good offense. He likes to rush at you. He likes to throw high clip of volume. He's right there in your face, but he always leaves his face on the center line, so he takes a lot of damage as well. But he's a tough guy. He can grapple. He can strike with you, and he's going to use that to his advantage. But then you got a world-class kickboxer in Alex Ferreira, just like you said. He's probably one of the most decorated glory kickboxers of our time. He made the move to UFC to try something new, and he's looked really good since then. He had that so-so round 1 against Michaelitis, but then he finished him, and then in the last fight, he went and won by decision over Bruno Silva, where he had over 150 strikes. And he started to slow down a little bit, but he pours in a lot of volume on you, and he was able to avoid a lot of Bruno Silva's knocked shots. And he's going to go into this fight knowing that Sean Strickland is going to look to take him down. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of leg kicks from Alex Ferreira. He's going to keep the striking up high. And this could be a slobber knocker of a fight because both these guys like to throw a lot of volume and they like to just go at their opponents. And with it being 3 rounds, I see the emphasis on starting out strong in this one. And that's why I'm going with Alex Ferreira by decision here. I think he inches it out. It could even be a split decision, just like before. And because both these guys pour out a lot of volume, it's just a matter of how each guys do each round. Like I could see Ferreira winning round 1, Strickland winning round 2, but then I could see Alex Ferreira coming back and winning round 3. So it's all a matter of volume here. I think that Strickland might try and grapple with him, but I feel like Ferreira will have trained for that, and then he'll be able to deal with it. And then it's either that or he'll throw leg kicks to keep him from getting inside. He'll keep him honest by keeping that kickboxing range and then just throwing those leg kicks here, and moving around. Because Sean Strickland's going to have to get inside of him to beat him. Because you look right there, Ferreira has 3-inch height and then 4-inch reach advantage. So he's going to have the advantage of staying from a distance and attacking Strickland, whereas Strickland's going to have to get inside of him. So I feel like Ferreira's going to inch out this victory over him by unanimous decision or split decision.
Well, to your point, like you said about Strickland, he's going to move right in your face. So he doesn't even have to worry about that reach advantage. You know, he's the type of guy to take 1 to give 2. And those leg kicks could be, you know, Pereira's, you know, path to victory or his path to defeat if Strickland catches one and then just trips him, takes him to the ground. This is a very interesting fight. I think either way, whoever wins this fight is going to get the next title shot. Strickland's ranked 5, right?
They've already announced that the winner of this fight is going to get the next title shot.
As they should, because Strickland is the only guy in the top 5 who hasn't fought Adesanya. And Pereira, obviously, you know, I see the poster right now. 18 or 14 years or 4 years in the making or whatever, however long it's been. I think it was like 2014.
Yeah, and his hands are no slouch too. It's just that he does a lot of work with his leg kicks being a kickboxer. He has knockout power in his hands. I just know that Strickland is a tough guy who is hard to knock out. And those leg kicks are an easy way to rack up volume to get him ahead in the scorecards early.
Yeah, this is a big fight for both these guys.
And Strickland right now is a plus 100 underdog, whereas Ferreira is a minus 120 favorite. So keep that in mind. Yep. But let's move on to the co-main event of the evening. This is actually my most coveted fight on the card. We got the trilogy fight right here between Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway for the UFC Featherweight Championship of the World. You got the great Alexander Volkanovski, and then you got Max Blessed Holloway. Jim, what are your thoughts on this fight, and then who you have winning?
Yeah, man, talk about a tough matchup, right? I'm curious to see where you're at with this one because this is your, you know, this is your precious. If we take a Lord of the Rings kind of analogy of it, we've seen this fight. Yeah, I mean, we've seen this one twice already, right? And it could have went either way both times. I have Volkanovski winning this one again. I think he finishes the trilogy. Max had a bit of a layoff, and Volkanovski has been a fighting champion. I feel the difference maker could be the takedowns, like the last fight. But if Max can stop the takedowns and pour in the volume that we know he definitely can, he will definitely. I think he can definitely win this fight. But I think Volkanovski is a more complete fighter now than he was the last time that they met. That's saying something to a guy who's just been piecing it together as he goes. And so I have Volkanovski winning this one by decision. And if Max loses this one, I mean, maybe he should move up, you know, pack on some weight, try a new division, because it's going to be a long time for him to get a 4th shot at the belt. But I'm curious to see where you are for your precious.
Yeah, in the first 2 fights, of course, Alex Volkanovski won the first one. I felt like Max Holloway did enough to win the second one because the first 3 rounds, but they, of course, the judges thought differently. They scored it split decision for Volkanovski, edging it out. because of the wrestling in round 3 it was. But I felt like Max Holloway won this. I felt like both fighters have gotten better. I feel like Volkanovski has become more well-rounded, but then I feel like Max Holloway has upped the volume count. He's upped the pressure. He's gotten faster. His hand speed's faster. His movement's better. He's gotten better with the takedown defense. He's just looked better. He did have that good fight with Uriah Rodriguez, but he weathered the storm and he won that fight. I believe it was 4-1. And then one judge scored it 3-2, but he won that fight. He's gone up against guys where he's been able to basically just out volume them and out tough them out. And he's always been Volkanovski's toughest test because of his volume and his movement. It's just that in the second fight, the wrestling later on kind of helped out Volkanovski, and I feel like Max Holloway has trained for that. He's trained for Volkanovski's wrestling, and Holloway's the type of guy. He might not knock you out. He's going to just do a lot of volume, and it's going to be like a 75% punch where he doesn't knock you out, but it definitely affects you because he hits you a lot with the 75%. Because both these guys can go 5 rounds. Both these guys don't get tired. But I feel like Volkanovski has found a guy who can outstrike him, and he's not going to look to knock out Volkanovski. That's the difference. He's going to look to just out volume him, keep on moving, out volume him, and make Volkanovski get into a fight like he did before, where he's not used to it, where he's not behind on the scorecards, and he has to force things, and that plays into Max Holloway's wheelhouse. I look at the odds right now, and they have it Volkanovski minus 190, and then Max Holloway plus 160. So it's definitely favoring towards Volkanovski here. I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going with Max Holloway by decision here. I think he gets it done here. I think he's studied Volkanovski. I think he's picked the last 2 opponents that he's fought for a reason. He beat Cater. He destroyed Cater. And then he came in and he beat Uriah Rodriguez, 2 big-time strikers who have power and speed that can help him out. I think it was a lot of prepping for this trilogy fight here with those 2 fights.
It's like he took those as sparring partners.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. Like, he didn't have any sparring partners over COVID. So he went and got fights to spar with people, which is absolutely crazy.
I think with Volkanovski, his path to victory will be grappling again.
Yeah,
it's not going to be. I don't think it'll be striking. I think it'll be grappling again, because when he tries to outstrike Max Holloway, he loses, and that's why he lost the first 2, arguably the first 3 rounds. I think the second fight. In the first fight, he shocked Holloway and he outstruck him with power. And Holloway didn't expect that. And then Holloway changed things up and just started to do this tactic of, I'm just going to out-volume you. And it worked. It's just that the judges didn't score the fight with him in round 3 like they should have. And it went back to Volkanovski. So I feel like Holloway's going to be very motivated to win this fight. And he's going to get the edge of this fight. I think it'll be another one where it's 3-2, but this time I'll go to Holloway.
Yeah, this is anybody's fight, to be honest with you. And we always talk about Holloway being such a big fighter in this division. He's at a disadvantage in this fight by 2.5 inches. Yeah. He's 5 inches taller than Volkanovski, but Volkanovski has a 71.5 reach advantage, or 71-inch reach versus 69-inch for Holloway.
Yeah, but it's definitely going to be a great fight. I think it'll be fighting tonight as it should once again. And I wouldn't be surprised if it became a split decision.
Yeah, I mean, Holloway, both these guys have a lot to gain and a lot to lose. Holloway has, his chances of another title shot to lose. And Volkanovski has a lot to gain in terms of, if he wins this, he could be considered the best of that division. And if he loses this, then you have Max, who could be considered the best at this division. So this is that, this is GSP and Anderson Silva type kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
who's the best at their division?
Yep. But let's transition over to the main event of the evening. We got a UFC middleweight championship matchup featuring the champion Israel Adesanya, aka the last style bender. He's going up against number one contender Jarod Cannonier, aka Killer Gorilla. Jim, what are your thoughts on this title fight and who you have winning?
I love this matchup. This is my most coveted fight. This is the one I'm looking forward to. Izzy's quite arguably one of my favorite fighters of all time. And I have him winning this fight. The reason why I have him winning this fight is that there's two types of Jarod Cannonier. There's the one who picks his opening and lands a big counter shot, and then there's the one that comes out super aggressive, and bullies you to the cage and works from there. This fight depends on which one is going to show up. If the aggressive Jarod shows up, I feel that works into Izzy's hand, and it will set up for an Izzy knockout. And if he's too cautious, he won't be active enough to get the win, and Israel is just going to use his leg kicks, use his stand-up to work from distance and move around. I feel this being a championship fight, Jarod is going to be going into it a little more cautious than he has previously, which is going to play into Israel's hand. And I have Israel Adesanya winning by decision.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm actually going with the same thing. I'm going with Izzy by decision here. A big factor in this fight will be, can Jarod Cannonier use his weight advantage in this fight to try and take down Adesanya? And we know that Jarod Cannonier doesn't primarily try and do that, but if there was a fight for him to pull like a new thing out of his bag, now would be the time where he has that weight advantage over Adesanya. Adesanya has the height and the reach advantage, which is crazy to think. And he has the kickboxing style. We talked about that with Alex Ferreira. He has the kickboxing style where he has, but him with the Adesanya, he has all those crazy leg kicks that he likes to throw. And then he has the combination that it sticks with him where he throws the high leg kick with the right leg, and then he follows it up with the overhand left strike that catches his opponents all the time because he's so quick with the leg kick and then the strike that you're still thinking about the leg kick when he's already thrown the left hand overhand shot. So he's going to try and get the volume game going, but move around, throw, move, because he knows Jarod Cannonier is a world-class counter striker. He sits back with that karate style. He'll kind of like move backwards, but then throw forward at the same time and create torque with his power. But it's been known to get him into bad situations at times. And he was able to be taken down several times against Robert Whittaker that way. He's been knocked out once or twice. He got stunned against Derek Brunson before he came back and won that fight. He was 2 seconds away from getting finished on the mat, but then he came back strong second round and he finished Brunson. So it's going to be interesting to see what Jarod Cannonier shows up. I think if he's more patient, he'll have a better chance of winning because we've seen Israel Adesanya play a safe game where he'll touch you up, move, and he won't take any chances, and then he just edges out decision victories in boring fights. But then we've seen a more motivated Adesanya in certain fights where he comes out there very aggressive and he looks for the knockout. And with what I've seen lately, I think it might be more of a boring Adesanya because he respects Cannonier more. He has no ill will against him. He knows that he's just an opponent who doesn't talk trash and just fights. And so I feel like it's going to be more so that. So if Cannonier can just be more cautious in the fight and then just try and throw leg kicks and strikes whenever he has openings, he'll have a better chance to eke out a victory here. But I still think Israel Adesanya is going to win here. I think he outvolumes him. He keeps the movement. He doesn't go for those knockout shots. And he knowing that it's a 5-round fight, and Adesanya will win by a unanimous decision victory.
Yeah, if this is a fight for Cannonier to showcase a new wrinkle in his game, I don't know
Yeah.
if this is the right one, to be honest with you. I
No.
don't think he should break out wrestling with a world-class kickboxer just to see if it works. I don't think Izzy's going to give Cannonier enough to not get knocked out, because I feel like that's Cannonier's path to victory, is to knock
Yeah.
Adesanya out. And he, like you said, Israel sits back and just kind of works from distance, gets in your head, and then makes you come forward. But I don't think he's going to be able to get into Cannonier's head, because the other two fights previous to that were against, you have Whitaker, who that's a rivalry. So there's a lot riding on that. And then there's Vettori, they hated each other. And
Yeah.
before that, you had Blachowicz, which was a big whole, I want to be double champ kind of motivation. And then it was Paulo Costa, who hated Adesanya. Jarod Cannonier is respectful and comes in here and just says, I just want to fight. Give me my money and I want to fight. So different matchups in this one compared to his last two, but I'm still going to ride with Izzy.
Yep, and that's the main event right now. Let's transition over to, of course, Cage's betting lines for UFC 276. As always, the way I work this is I do 3 single bets, and then I do a parlay at the end here. The first single bet that I'm going with is Max Holloway to win the fight. Right now, it's plus 160. I'm actually going to go with Max Holloway by decision in this one to rank it up, because I know he's not going to win by knockout. I just have a very high IQ to think that it's going to be decision. So Max Holloway by decision more than likely will be in the plus 250 to plus 300 range, which is a steal for him, even against the champion in Volkanovski. If he can get those odds with Max Holloway, knowing that he's come close to victory in fight 2, I'm going to take the stab at him there. The next one I'm going to do is I'm going to go with Brian Barberina. I'm going to go with him with the plus 100. He's going up against Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler's coming in at his age. I feel like with Brian Barberina being the plus 100 here, that you can get a steal with him being the underdog, knowing that he has a lot more left in the tank than Lawler. He can easily win by decision, or he can easily win by knockout. So I'm going to go with Brian Barberina at the 2 spot right there. And then with my last one, I'm going to go with Andre Munoz here, and I'm going to go inside the distance. Inside the distance. He's the minus 240. So if I go inside the distance, it'll drop it down to more even odds. I feel like if he wins, it's going to be by submission or knockout. We've talked about this before with the style of Uriah Hall. He is very passive in his fight, so I feel like he could get taken down and submitted. I said it was going to be decision. You said it was going to be submission. The more I look at it now, is I like the odds to take a chance on inside the distance here in that fight to get odds. So I'm going with Andre Munoz. And then the last one, I'm going to go with a 3-fighter parlay here. The first one I'm going with is I'm going to go with Dricus du Plessis plus 110. I'm going to go with the money line there. Then I'm going to go with Jaden Turner minus 120. I think with those two, it will balance each other out. And then I'm going to go, lastly, I'm going to go with Alex Ferreira over Sean Strickland. That will be with the du Plessis plus 110. It's going to be able to balance out the other two. I'm going to go with the money line right now on all 3 to play it safe. So once again, I'm going with Max Holloway decision. I'm going to go Andre Munoz inside the distance. I'm going to go with Brian Barberina money line. And then I'm going to go with the trio parlay and Alex Ferreira. Go with Jaden Turner. And then, of course, the last one on there as well, Dricus du Plessis, as the last one on that one. I almost forgot his name for a second. So those are my 4 bets for UFC 276. So let me know what you think of my bets. Give me your opinions in the comment section. Give me your opinions on our predictions, and then of course, give us in the comment section your thoughts. Who you think is going to win? Who your sleeper is? And what your bets are going to be for 276. Hit us up in the comment section. We love all the comments. I've been commenting back. I've been liking everybody's comment that comes through. I want to get the comment section rolling this week. So hit us up in the comment section and let you know what I think. But other than that, that'll wrap things up with tonight's show. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the YouTube channel at CageMyIQ. Smash the like button down below, and then tune in to all the other content that we have on the network. And now, I do stuff for UFC, I do stuff for Bellator, I do stuff for PFL, and I even do interviews as well. I got an interview lined up in the next week or two, so keep an eye on that. And then lastly, we do have a Cash App now for CageMyIQ. So if you feel like donating to the show, hit the Cash App, $ DanielBakley. We support and appreciate any donation that you guys give to the show. So once again, that's Cash App, $ DanielBakley. And then other than that, we will be back next week to give you guys a full card breakdown of UFC Vegas 59. So other than that, do you have anything to say before we get going, Jim?
No, just enjoy the fights.
Yeah, enjoy the fights, enjoy the pay-per-view. It's going to be one of the. It could be one of the best pay-per-views of the summer, if not the year. But as always, I'm your host, Cage. This is my co-host, Jim, and we will see you guys next week for another edition of Cage My IQ. Thanks for tuning in.